let's get started. Thanks so much for joining us today to learn more about the Fuqua Client Consulting Practicum and how your organization might partner with CASE and Duke University's Fuqua School of Business through this program. Your lines are currently muted, but hopefully in addition to hearing my voice, you can also see on your screen the Fuqua Client Consulting Practicum slide. Throughout the webinar, feel free to use the chat function on WebEx to send in a question, and then we'll also be including time at the end of our brief presentation for discussion. At that point, your lines will be unmuted so that you can ask questions directly. If for any reason you can't hear me or you see the slides moving but aren't sure what's going on, feel free to use that chat function to ask me any questions during the time. We will be recording this webinar, and we'll be sure to send out the link to the recording along with the slide deck to everyone who's registered today. So let's get started. During today's information session, we'll be covering the what, why, how, and when of the Fuqua Client Consulting Practicum, or as we call it, FCCP. Hopefully you'll leave today with enough information to know whether this program might be the right match for your organization. I'm your host today. I'm Robin Furman, and I have the privilege of serving as Director of Programs at CASE, the Center for the Advancement of Social Entrepreneurship. Following today's call, you can always reach out to me directly at the email address you see on your screen. Located in Durham, North Carolina, and housed at Duke University's Fuqua School of Business, CASE is a world-class academic lab, and we're obsessed with one question: how do social entrepreneurs leap the chasm from idea to sustainable impact at scale? Our vision is that ultimately all social entrepreneurs and social impact leaders will have the skills, networks, and funding they need to help solve the world's most pressing challenges. And it's our aim to contribute to that vision through preparing leaders and organizations with the business skills they need. We do that through educating MBA students, applying a research lens to the field of social impact in order to surface best practices, and through engaging with practitioners like you to hopefully develop high-impact partnerships and tools that help you every day do the work that you do and accelerate that impact of your work. We do not run the FCCP program directly. Instead, we partner with Fuqua School of Business's broader experiential learning team to help source projects for the FCCP Social Impact Track. So you can consider me your point of contact between now and when you actually apply. And then after that, the FCCP experiential learning team will be the people who have the information you need. We'll talk more about roles and responsibilities throughout today's webinar. So what exactly is the Fuqua Client Consulting Practicum? In short, FCCP is an experiential learning program and an academic course that is an elective within the Masters of Business Administration, or MBA, curriculum. This course is open to both first and second year students. And through this program, teams of 4 to 5 MBA graduate students partner with a client organization to provide consulting on a strategic project. Student teams work with their client organization over a 3-month period during their spring semester. Why might your organization apply to be a client? Well, FCCP social impact clients can be nonprofit organizations, government agencies, or for-profit social enterprises. If you're seeking a fresh perspective on a really tough issue, if you're searching for business advice, if you need some human capital to take on a tailored project that really matters to your mission, FCCP can benefit you. Social impact client organizations can be based anywhere in the world and can work on any issue, everything from poverty alleviation to environmental sustainability, workforce development, education, child welfare, or health. So how exactly does this program work? You'll see the timeline on the screen in front of you. During the summer, FCCP staff, like me, work with organizations like yours to source high-quality client applications. You're attending the client information session right now. Client applications from organizations like yours are then due September 30th. And in early fall, FCCP staff and student fellows review those initial applications and conduct due diligence calls with applicants to learn more. Student teams select projects in November, and client applicants are notified of their application status just after Thanksgiving. Unfortunately, not all organizations that apply are selected for work by student teams, but we'll talk more about how to make sure you submit a strong application. If your organization is selected, consulting engagements begin in mid-January. Student teams are then available to travel to your client location during their spring breaks in March, and the projects conclude in April with a final presentation. So as you can see, there is a significant length of time between when you submit your application in September and when work really starts. So it's important as you're thinking about the project that you might be interested in to be able to forecast what your organization might need in spring 2018. So you've heard a lot of different groups mentioned, from client teams to faculty and staff to fellows, and then of course there's you. So who does what in this program? Several different groups work together to create a successful experience for both client organizations and for MBA students. You, as the potential client organization, are responsible for designing the initial project idea, understanding, of course, that the scope of the project might change, given that long timeline I just mentioned. Things from your organization might change between fall and spring, and things might change as you talk with students and hear their reflections on your project idea. If you're selected, client organizations are asked to pay a sliding scale administrative fee that's based on your organization's annual operating budget. If the fee is not possible, you may request a waiver. Additional information about the fees and waiver process is available on the FCCP client application and website. But just to give you a sense of what we're talking about, the fee for organizations with an annual operating budget of less than $10 million is $500 US. During the actual consulting engagement period, you can expect that a staff person within your organization will need to commit between 3 and 5 hours a week to work with our student team. That's what we found to be a best practice benchmark. Your FCCP student team will be learning consulting best practices from our staff and faculty as they engage with you. And each member of the team will be working on your project for 6 to 10 hours per week during the engagement period. So you can see that with that time, they will be able to make a substantial impact. The program is also supported by student fellows who are second-year students who have participated in the program before, and by faculty and staff throughout the entire academic year. So since I mentioned earlier that not all applications from client organizations are selected, what can you do to make sure you're submitting the strongest application possible? First and foremost, proposing a tailored and strategic project is critical. Being clear on what specifically you hope the outcomes of this consulting engagement will be will help students really understand the value they might add to your organization. You might ask yourself, what will be different in your organization as a result of working with an MBA team? Speak specifically to the MBA skill set when you're describing your project and organization's needs. Is this project related to strategy, finance, operations, human resources, fundraising, or investment? What skills do MBAs have that you need most? And some of those example skills are on your screen. They're able to conduct financial analysis, conduct assessments on a range of questions, do strategic and business planning, help you put together a growth plan. Those are all areas that are the sweet spot for MBAs. As you're thinking about your application, be prepared to allocate staff time to ensure project success. We found that our most successful client engagements often have a senior leader who is the overall champion for the project and able to really open doors and allocate resources as necessary within the organization. Additionally, organizations have a staff person, perhaps a more junior person, who can serve as the day-to-day project lead or week-to-week contact for your student teams. Sometimes this is the same person in a smaller organization, and in a larger organization it may make sense to split those roles. Finally, demonstrate on your application that you as a client will be engaged and communicative with the student team. Simply put, your organization will get out of FCCP what you put into it. So let's walk through a few specific examples of past social impact client applications that were successfully selected and implemented by our Fuqua students. The first one I'll show you is Miracle Feet. Miracle Feet is a nonprofit global health organization that has its headquarters here in North Carolina, but also has a presence around the world. Last year, they applied to specifically get consultation on some supply chain questions they were asking themselves when it came to the club foot brace that they produce and distribute in multiple countries and via multiple partners. Students worked in person with the North Carolina staff and then traveled to the Philippines for a site visit as part of their overall project engagement. Another example with a more local focus, for those of you who are calling from North Carolina, is KIPP Eastern North Carolina. KIPP ENC is a group of North Carolina-based nonprofit charter schools with offices in Durham, North Carolina, and across the rural part of the state. It's a rapidly growing organization and applied because they felt they were in need of strengthened internal systems when it came to purchasing, human resources and personnel management, and how they manage data. The student team worked with KIPP staff here in North Carolina, both virtually and in their offices. And then a third example is Forest. Forest is a for-profit social enterprise that's working to eradicate blindness through the innovative use and deployment of specific ophthalmology technology services. They're based in Bangalore, India. And their project last year was specifically around some business challenges related to a new telemedicine initiative. They had a range of business questions that had to do with their customer base that our MBA students were able to help them answer. Students worked remotely from the US and then traveled to India to work directly with the client. Going back just for a moment to the FCCP timeline, I wanted to note that after you submit your client application in September, you'll receive notification in November, and then students will work with you throughout the spring. The engagement then closes with a final engagement presentation in April that you can participate in either in person or virtually. And then our staff and faculty will spend the spring both evaluating the program and grading students. That's when the program ends and we start all over again. So if FCCP sounds like something that might benefit your organization, you have 2 action steps from here. First of all, we'd recommend that following this webinar, you schedule a one-on-one project discussion call with me. I can specifically work with you to provide advice on the match of your idea with MBA skills or help you refine the scope of your proposal. You can email me directly to schedule this call. It should only take about 30 minutes. And we can do that in July, August, or early September. And then the most important date for you to know is that client applications are due on September 30th. Applications are available online, and there's a Word document called the Client Application Guide to help walk you through the application process. So that's FCCP in a nutshell. From here, I'll unmute your lines and see what questions you have. So hi, everyone. Glad you're on the call. I believe that your lines are unmuted now. Feel free to call out your question. If you do so, please introduce yourself, your name, and what organization you represent. You can also use the WebEx chat function to send your question via computer. So take it away. What questions do you all have? I haven't heard any questions yet, so that means either one of two things. Either your lines are still muted, or you have got all the information you need from what we've talked about beforehand, or you just aren't sure what your questions are and might have them later.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess that's the case, yeah.
Yes. That makes sense. Well, and I think those are, oftentimes it takes a little while to absorb the information, and that's why scheduling a call with me can be a productive exercise. We can walk through and I can learn more about your organization, the type of work that you do, and some initial ideas, and help you narrow down what the scope of a potential project might be. I think one important note, folks often ask, do students have a preference between US-based organizations or organizations based in other parts of the world? And the answer to that question is that, students choose a range of projects, and they work on projects they have historically worked on projects in a range of different organizations. That said, if there is the opportunity to travel to a non-US location as part of your organization's work, our students do love those opportunities, and they have the availability to do that during their spring breaks in early March 2018. And so if there is a travel opportunity, I encourage you to name that and note that in your application. Past organizations have worked throughout Asia, Africa, the US, and in Latin America. And so we certainly have a diverse student body here and a diverse group of participants in FCCP. Many of our students also speak other languages, so if there are other language needs as part of your organization, be sure to note that as well. Well, from here, I'll say that I look forward to future questions that you might have and to hopefully you reaching out to me one-on-one to schedule time to talk specifically about how your organization might partner and what project might make sense. As you consider that, I hope that you'll plan to stay in touch with CASE. You can do that by following us on social media and also by registering to receive our e-newsletter at case@duke.org. We send out a monthly newsletter that's just chock full of resources, tools, and best practices that social impact leaders across the world can really benefit from. Thank you so much for joining us today and for your interest in FCCP, and most importantly, for all that you do every day for so many around the world. We are all grateful for your work. Thank you so much, everyone, and take care. I look forward to hearing from you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.